Hello friends, today we'll see how to create the post API using Java Spring Boot. So in the last video we saw how to create the post API in a Golang, and today we'll use the Spring Boot for post API creation. And in the next video we'll see how to save the event to database using Golang, and also in a following video you'll also see a similar logic using the Spring Boot. So let's start with the logic. So let me bring the screen for our code project. Okay, so this is our code project. And that's a POM file. We'll also see the form validation, or form in this case we have the post body. So how to validate each entry in the post body using Spring Boot starter validation. So we'll see that. Let me remove this thing. This is for the Golang stuff, but this one will use in a Maven for the validation. Okay, so first of all, let's just find out what is the dependency for this, and just we can add also in our POM file. So let me search this Spring Boot Maven repository. Okay. Okay. So let's use this library. This is useful when we enter our data, and we'll say that in a post JSON body, if you enter 1 to 31 in a day, okay, that's considered as a valid data. But if it is beyond that, so there will be error. So for that purpose we are using this. So let's add this in a dependency. I will remove the the version here that will handle by the Spring Boot itself. So I think this 2 line, it's a sufficient. Okay, so we added this. I will tell you where we are going to use this in a code. So let's refresh this. So it will download the dependency. Let's go in a code, and in the source main, let's create a controller. So under the controller there's a status controller. Let's create one more controller called event controller. So it's a event controller. Okay, and in order to make that's a REST API, we need the annotation called REST controller. So let's add this REST controller, and for the URL let's add request mapping, and here I need our URL is starting with the API v1 and event. So that's why it's here. Then let's create the function. So public response entity event DTO. So I will create the event DTO. So what I'm going to do, I will have the function here, and when we hit the API v1 event, it will come here, and it will do some logic and return the event DTO, and then event DTO will be converted to JSON. So for that we are using this object. So let's create the object first. So inside the models DTO here, let's create a DTO called event DTO. So Java class, and here I'm going to create event DTO, and again we'll come back in this place. Okay, so we have event DTO here. Inside this, let's have some fields. So private int ID, private int day, and it's exact, they are the exactly same fields, you know, what we added in the last video in a Golang example. So private int month, private int year, private string title, and then private string description. Let's make it lowercase. And two more field, it's a created at. So for this, data type should be date time. So for that, I'm going to use the zone date time. Created at, similar way updated at. Okay, so this is good. Now let's create the setter and getter function. So for this, how to do, right click here and then refactor, go to the encapsulate fields, and we can select all the fields here. Then we can see all the, you know, the setter and getter functions created here. Yeah, so that's a good thing, you know, we created getter and setter, but there is a, you know, some other library that's called Lombok. So if you use the Lombok, we do not have to create, you know, the getter and setter for each field. So that will be, you know, done by the Lombok library. When we compile the code, it will be generated from there. So let's use, you know, let's this is a very old way, like use the getter and setter. So these are all the codes we are writing here or generating here. So let's not do in this way. So let's go and use the Lombok. So for the Lombok, let's go and search here. With project Lombok, we have to add that in a dependency. So just I'll go and copy here. And I have to add that in a dependency section. So that's for the Lombok. And in the, again, for the Lombok, let's not use the version, just two things that will be take care by Spring Boot. So okay, we'll use this using the Lombok here. And in this case, now we are using the Lombok. So in order to generate that setter and getter, we have to use the annotation here on the top. So let me do that. Here I'll come here and then I'll say the getter. So let me refresh this first. It's not auto populating. Now it's downloaded. I hope you can see now. So if I do the getter, you can see the Lombok here. Yeah, so just add this and then a setter. So you know, using, you know, this two line, it actually generates, you know, all the setter and getter method. So we do not have to add all these codes here, generate and add. So that will be handled by, you know, these two, getter and setter. So Lombok annotation. Okay, that's good. Come back to event controller and import this. Okay, that's good. So it's event DTO, and let's create our function. Let's say function is called to create event, and then here we add the valid. So see this valid, we need so add valid annotation, so that's from the Java X validation. So that's good. Let's add this, and then so we need the request body, and then event DTO, and the event DTO. Okay. So in this way, when we send our body in a JSON, that will be automatically, that will be decoded in this event GTO, and this will be responsible for the validation. So we'll add the annotation, how we are going to validate our each field. So we'll add that annotation here. So for now, everything is here. We need a service layer, so we have not created the service layer here for this for the event. So let's create that. So new Java, it should be interface, then let's say event service. We'll come back again. So this is the event service, and under this let's create a function called like save event. Let's say save event. So it's a save event, and we'll pass event DTO here. So event DTO, semicolon. Let's import this, and this function should return event DTO. So that's why I'm saying return event DTO. Okay, that's good. Now let's create the implementation. So I'll create the Java class, and it's an event service. So event service, and let's say IMPL, and this is the class. So we created here, and let's implements, and this should be event service. So we need a functionality. So implement methods. We know there's only one method there, save event. So that's why we're using the save event. And here we can add our our save logic later. We'll see that in future videos. But for now, what I'm doing, in a event DTO, I'm just saying, okay, event DTO dot set ID equal to 100 some value, and then I will return the event DTO. Okay, so that's all for this, and then we'll say that, okay, this is the service. So we'll add the annotation called service here. The service, come to the event controller here, and let's call that that service. So in order to call that service, we have to auto wire. So say event service. So let's use the auto wire here. So we are doing dependency injection here. So with the help of event service, you can call the function event service, and I say so response equal to event service dot save event. So whatever we get from the post API, we're just passing that object here. So eventually that will be saved in a database, but we are not going to add the logic for database now. But for now, whatever we are getting from post API call, we are just returning the similar thing, and also in addition to that, we are just setting the ID also to 100. Okay, so this should be not event service, event DTO, and yeah, that's correct. And then at the end, the return a new response entity, and then bracket we can say the response, and then comma http status. Okay, http status dot. Okay, yeah, so that's all. So let's run this and see how it's working, and then again I'll explain a little bit about the flow. So how to run this, the command mvnw, then spring boot run. So if it's not any error, it will run at port 9700, and we'll see. Okay, it's running at 9700. So let's use API v1 event. So I have already prepared the similar data what we used in our last video, and only thing I changed support is 9700, and here I'm passing day, month, year, title and description, and if I send, it should return the 200. Okay, so let's send once again. So 404 not found, there is some issue. Let's see, it's a localhost 9 API v1 event. Let's check what I put again here. Okay, I missed forward slash here. Okay, let's start once again. Let's bring the screen here. So this time again I'm going to send through the postman. Again it's error, status 404 not found. So somehow it's not finding API v1 event. So it's a API v1 event. Let's check once again. Oh, okay. so this one also we have to say that okay, this is the post call, so we have to give the annotation also. So for this post mapping, so it's a post mapping, and let's say that produces application JSON. Okay, so let's try once again. Let's see, it should return 200 this time. Okay, that's good. It returned 200, and if you see the ID 100, so that's our logic. So what is happening here, we are calling this event and we are passing this body. So whole body will be decoded in this event DTO, and then we pass the event DTO to save event. And when you go to the save event, so inside save event, this is the save event, we added ID 100 and then we return the event DTO, and that's why we got exactly same data here. Yeah, so and for the for the validation, if I add like okay, for the validation we have not done anything. So like if I say 500, it will accept now. Okay, 500. Okay, and we know that we have added the dependency, but we have not given the instructions, how to check or validate this field. So let's do that now. So come back to this DTO field and add few annotation on day here. So on the day I can say it should be not null. I can say it's a minimum value should be 1. I can say max value can be 31. So that's our instructions, and let's run this and let's try to validate once again. So this time it should not allow the day 500 because this should be between 1 to 31. So if I give 500, it's a 400, it's a bad request, and it didn't allow. And if you read the message here, we'll see the detail. It's a 31 default message. It's a must be less than or equal to 31. So in this way we can validate each and every field, and we can also search in the internet. There are uh, different way of the validations, so we can put all of those things. So let's go, and you can explore all the possible ways. So for now, if I give the valid data, it should accept. That's good, it's accepting now. So that's all. It's a very simple example for the post API using the Spring Boot. So, and in the next video we'll see how to save the how to save the record in a database using Golang. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.